You are listening to the Shopify Solutions Podcast, a podcast for Shopify store owners that brings you concrete examples on how to build and grow your e-commerce brand. Your host is Scott Austin. He owns a Shopify agency called Jade Puma. In this podcast, Scott will share his e-commerce insights and best practices with you.
Hey everyone, Scott Austin here. In this week's episode, we have a guest, Kate Latham from Modern Hoopla. Welcome, Kate.
Nice to be here, Scott.
Kate is been using for a period of time Shopify Collective, and I wanted to bring her on because she's using it both as the supplier and as the seller side. So she knows both sides of the equation, and I want to help you learn from her how your brand can be using Shopify Collective in growing your business. So, Kate, can you start off telling us a little bit about Modern Hoopla, what it is that you're selling?
I would love to. Modern Hoopla is a brainchild of mine from about 7 years ago. I invented a wooden frame, like a picture frame, but it fits over top of an embroidery hoop, which hadn't really existed before that. And what an incredibly tiny niche of a product, but I ran with it, and we now sell a wide variety of frames and other accessories for the craft and needle arts industries. In addition to that, I started on a Squarespace website, but then I switched over to Shopify in late 2024. And one of the reasons that I did that was the Shopify Collective capabilities.
Yeah, so Shopify Collective came out in 2023, I think. So you saw that early on, that feature, and that was enough to motivate you to move off of the mistake known as Squarespace and
Yes.
get onto a real e-commerce platform.
Many reasons, but I had been looking for a drop shipping like capability, and Squarespace certainly wasn't going to have that. And but if you understand anything about the craft industry or the product that I've described, it is so niche. It really needs to fit with embroidery or an embroidery kit that someone has. So being able to pair my product up with others was going to be really powerful.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And to explain to people, because I'm looking at your website right now and I've hovered over your circle frames, and I like that your second image is the back side of it. So
hmm
if anybody knows how needlepoint works, you got usually a round hoop that makes your material or cloth, whatever you call it, taut so that you can do your stitching in it. And then your frame fits right over that hoop. So the material stays taut and they don't have to like remount it or anything like that. So the back side of the frame has some notches etched out for where the screws that tighten the hoop go in. Is that the unique part of your product?
Exactly, right, leaving the space for the screw tensioner, it was the innovation. That way you can leave your stitching in a hoop, which is really the perfect tool to keep the fabric taut and everything centered and in good shape.
And the hoop suppliers probably don't mind that either because they sell more hoops.
That's right.
You wanted to get into Shopify Collective because you wanted to be on the receiving end as a retailer or on the supply end as a supplier?
Well, I really wanted to be on the supply end because I wanted to be able to pair my frames, with an embroidery kit that someone was buying. The tricky part is to get the size right. So, to be able to match my frame up and my listing to a specific size hoop already so that like all of that guesswork is taken out of the equation was going to be. Oh, that was the goal. And also so that because I offer so many sizes and then all of them in 5 different colors, a store's ability to stock that kind of breadth of product is difficult and bulky, frankly, especially for the embroidery market. They're already used to things that, you can slip in a little mailing envelope, and a frame throws a monkey wrench into that. So to be able to supply someone with the exact right product but without them having to buy it wholesale, stock it, or fulfill it, it was huge.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, for those in the audience who don't understand Shopify Collective yet, can you explain a little bit what the Shopify Collective app does for brands?
Sure. Like that's probably the best place to start is if you're looking in the apps in Shopify Collective, there is one specifically for a retailer. And basically what that does is it gives you the ability to go browse other Shopify stores and find product that you might want to also sell But Shopify then handles the connection between the two stores. They handle all of the details of a listing. So you basically can publish a listing into someone else's store, obviously not without their input, but you publish it to a retailer and then they can pull it into their store and offer it for sale. And in the background, Shopify handles all of the money transfer between the two stores, all of the shipping, all of the inventory, anything like that in the background so that it's seamless to the customer and there's no intermediary transfer of the product. It just goes from the supplier straight to the customer.
Yeah, and this is one of those beautiful things because Shopify's been so successful for so long, right? There's like 5 million plus stores on Shopify now that they have so many brands out there and they're all in the same tool set. They can start doing things like this. It's one of those no-brainers. If you every store was on the same platform, you would do this stuff. But it took
Mhm.
Shopify so many years to get so many brands on the platform to make this make sense. But like the inventory thing you just mentioned and like the shipping calculations, you couldn't do that between different platforms. It's only because
No.
everybody's on Shopify that this actually can work. And because there's so many brands, you can get onto that collective marketplace and find all sorts of products that you can add to your inventory.
Absolutely. I definitely recommend anyone with a Shopify store at least downloading the app, the retailer app to browse around and see what's available. There's no downside. And I will mention at this point there's no fee from Shopify. Who knows if that will change as things get adopted as they do, but at this point it's just an agreement between the two stores and you as a supplier you set a margin or a commission and as a retailer, then you agree to that. So, like, there are a certain pretty small set of policies that the two stores need to kind of work through, share the details of, and then it's very seamless.
Yep. So I'm gonna go on a little side rant for a second because you said, "Oh, right now Shopify has no fees," and like it annoys me. As Shopify, as I mentioned, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I see them leveraging that power more and more, and I'm not happy about that. Right. The biggest one that pisses me off is like last year or whenever the base level plan, which was the $29 a month plan, which is now $39 a month, has no staff accounts anymore. Right? They took the feature of 2 staff accounts away. They're just nickel and diming people, and it really annoys me because they actually do make a fee in all of this. It's the credit card transaction fee, right? So you're selling more product, whether it's through your channel or other brand stores, they're making money doing that. So I think they should focus more on just making all businesses grow without increasing fees because they make it at the transaction level. But I'm not a Shopify exec. They're not listening to me about these things. Rant over. Let's talk a bit about Shopify Collective, like how you got started. Did you start as a retailer or as a supplier?
I started as a supplier. I do think it's easier to understand from the retailer side, though.
All right, let's talk about the retailer side then. How would you start, a small brand getting started, they want to sell other people's products. How would they go about doing that?
I would start with just downloading the app and then they call it the discovery section. So you're in there, you're looking for partners. If you're used to buying wholesale or anything like that, it's the same kind of evaluation process. Um you're finding a partner that you're going to buy this additional product from and you once you find someone there's a button. It's basically like something about an invitation. That's what kickstarts the communication between the two companies.
Does that mean it's like double opt-in? You have to choose them and they have to accept you?
Yep, you find a company that you like, you initiate communication between the two, and then there's probably some email like, messaging back and forth. You have to a supplier then is going to send you a product list. Each like again from the supplier side, that product list can be specific to each retailer or you could have a generic one of these 20 products I offer. This is the margin. This is what my shipping policy is. This is what my return policy is, and have at it. Once you get through that communication about policies, and we can go back to that if you want to talk about that more, you basically then import a product list from the supplier. then those products, those 20 products that were on their product list show up in your product list in Shopify. I have it set that new things come in just marked as draft so that I get the chance to evaluate, modify, but it's going to act just like any other product in your product list. So you can then go in and add collections. You can adjust the order of how things show up. You can adjust the text. You can change the photos. You can do whatever you need to do to make that listing merge into your store. But in the background, Shopify is keeping that connection between the two stores so that the inventory is all still tracked and the money is all still handled, and whatever the transact when as the transactions happen, that's all going to be handled seamlessly.
Yep. Now, when you pick a supplier, do they dictate the terms or is there any negotiation or does it just say, "Hey, here's the price, it's fixed, you're going to get this kind of margin," or is there a discussion that happens?
Oh, well, there can be discussion. I'm sure that's really up to the two companies. I have a policy that I offer my products with a 20% margin. And that's what my collective partners and I have come to pretty industry wide as far as like again, the needleworks, craft industry, that's what we all seem to be doing, but I have seen margins range from, 10% up to 45%. So that is up to the supplier and then whatever negotiation happens.
So, when you say margin, there's two things that are happening there. One is, so correct me if I'm wrong in this, the supplier is dictating the price that the retailer sells it to their customers at, and the supplier dictates the price that the retailer pays, the wholesale price. Like, it sounds to me like the supplier is setting the price to the consumer and the price to the retailer. Is that correct?
Kind of. As a supplier, you're definitely setting your margin. But if I said, and margin is Shopify's term, I think of it more as a commission. So if I have a $10 product and I'm going to give you 20%, then you're going to keep $2 of my $10 product. But once it gets pulled into my site to sell to my customers, I I'm pretty sure I can change the price.
Okay, so they're setting a wholesale price then of $8,
Right.
and you get to choose how. If you sell it for 11, you're making 3. If you sell it
Right.
for 9, you're making 1.
Exactly.
So it is more of a wholesale type model. Okay.
Right.
And, when you started looking at this, looking at suppliers to add to your inventory, right? You're selling hoops for or frames for hoops. What sort of products did you look at to augment your inventory?
Well, I was looking at 2 things. I was at the first things that I looked at were I had some partnerships with different, industry friends, where we were collaborating on some things, and so for those, I clearly wanted to have them on my site as well as, my part of it on their site. And then I also was looking at kind of expanding those little add-ons that people buy that like additional notions and other things like that. So, just to be offering your customer, well, look, while you're shopping in my store, you might like this too. Like you're curating a set of products for them to buy. And in my case, like I was finding cool things that I wanted to sell that I didn't make. So that just enhanced what they could buy while they were shopping with me.
Can you give me a couple examples of what those cool things were?
Oh, sure. There, I sent, if you want to open one of the links that I sent you, the floss accessories page. Sure. Top two rows are probably mostly my own products, but then towards the bottom of the page, you'll see some peg bobbins and some acrylic bobbins that my friend Jenny at Lucky Jonquil makes. And I was making floss organizing tools that fit with those products. So that way, I've pulled her product in from her Shopify store, offering it for sale on mine. Maybe they need to resupply, buy more bobbins than what came with the original purchase or that sort of thing. And then you'll also see some examples of some needle minders that I pulled in from the another Shopify partner of Leah, and it's just another fun stitching accessory. And so I'm saying to my customers, I like the quality and design of this product. You might too. purchase it right here without having to, leave my site and go to theirs.
The important thing that I want to point out here that you're doing that I love is you're amassing a community of customers that are passionate about a particular thing, right? So the needlepoint here, right? And you're selling the frames. What you're trying to do is augment your needlepoint inventory or catalog, not sell baby diapers, right? It's very focused on your interest, what your brand's about. Like, what brands should be thinking about right now as they're listening is like, what type of audience am I bringing together? What do they need for that passion that brings that audience together that I'm missing in my store? So don't be selling, vegetables and then try to sell cotton candy. So you want to keep it true to your brand, and that's what this page of floss accessories is totally true to your brand and helps people with this one passion it about their needlepoint and displaying it and then making it and all that good stuff, which makes total sense.
So I have another example I want to show you. Now this one's maybe a little more advanced, but I love this, especially for my business. If you flip over to the kits page, what I've done here is I've imported a product from Junebug and Darling, which is an embroidery kit maker, and I've bundled it in the background with one of my frames into a bundled product listing. So you're not buying the individual product. That's sitting in draft form in my product list, but I've bundled it with the Bundles app. So now in one purchase, they're buying two products from two stores.
That's absolute genius because your frames, right, is obvious to you, of course, when I'm saying this just because it's so awesome. Your frames are just a piece of a bigger picture, and you're giving them the whole picture, right?
Right.
Literally and figuratively.
For my frames, it's actually easier to sell them in some cases with the thing that comes in the middle already packaged with it.
Yes, absolutely. Another example is, I've gone to Home Depot before to buy like a bolt for a specific whatever thing the bolt fell off of, right? And if you buy the bolt that's guaranteed to work with this thing, it's $5. If you go to the rack of bolts and you have to pick out the right one, it's 45 cents, right? And you're willing to pay the $5 because you know it works,
Because you know it fits. Yes,
right? And that's what
exactly.
you're doing here. It's like these all work together. It's a complete solution. You don't have to figure out the variables and all the little details. We've done all that hard work for you. Here's your curated time. Here's your curated experience to save you time. Yeah, I love these sets and kits. They're beautiful. So, as a retailer looking at suppliers through Shopify Collective, what are some of the things that you think people should be cautionary about? Like, are there bad apples out there? Are there bad deals or whatever? And what are some of the positive, things that best practices you've learned along the way?
I approach these partnerships just like I would evaluating someone that I wanted to wholesale with, or maybe even with a little bit more consideration. It's a business partnership, so you want to know and trust the other party that you're linking up with. For my business, maybe I'm more conservative. I'm not just going to willy nilly sign up with anyone. And I'm not going to let my products appear on sites. So you always have that choice. And I think you should always have, that step of the consideration of, is this a partnership that I want to have and that my customers are going to benefit from?
It sounds to me like you're actually interviewing your partners. Like, do you actually have conversations with them, on an online meeting or over the phone? Do you actually talk to them?
Probably half of my partners are people that I know from just Instagram, being in business, trade shows, people we've collaborated before. So there's that, but not all of them. It's most likely, or it's most typically email or, just text communication but there's still a step of evaluation. You still have to discuss, that commission or margin level and see that you're both comfortable there. You want to know how fast they do fulfillment. If, for instance, one of my partners also has an Etsy store, then it's easy to get a glimpse into their rating on the Etsy store to make sure that they're like fulfilling on time and there aren't other customer service issues. You might want to know how a package is presented. Is it just thrown in a bag and shipped out the door, or is there some presentation to it? depending on the industry that maybe are important or not. You have to cover who's going to cover the shipping. Some stores have probably built, free shipping into their products and others haven't. So, how's that going to work? How do you both handle returns? Shopify does handle the money and, the transfer even for returns, but you still have to make sure that your return policies are in sync or that it's clear and transparent on whoever's got the listing for the public. This is what's going to happen. So, on my listings, for instance, I try to include some sort of partnership language that makes it clear. Oh, your order is going to be coming from 2 locations.
Oh, you have a collaboration details accordion on your product page. We partnered with trusted and creative designers for this product. Yep. So you're very transparent about this, and you also are very clear with your policies to your customers to avoid any confusion down the road.
Want to build a loyal community around your brand? Events and classes are the perfect way to connect with your customers, but only if your calendar looks as professional as your store. But embedding a Google Calendar just won't cut it, as the calendar looks clunky and doesn't reflect your brand. That's why we created Branded Calendar, the Shopify app that lets you embed Google Outlook or Apple Calendars in your store while seamlessly matching your store's branding. Originally crafted for our private clients, Branded Calendar was so successful, we turned it into an app for every Shopify store. With Branded Calendar, you're in control of how your calendar looks and where it appears on product pages, contact pages, blog articles, or even your homepage. Keep your customers informed with schedules for retail hours, classes, or events. You can even share multiple calendars to meet different needs. And the best part? Branded Calendar includes a robust, always free plan so you can start building community. Risk-free. Engage your community and stay on brand with Branded Calendar.
Have there been any bad experiences you've had in this, or has it mostly been pretty good?
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, it's been really great. And it's really great as a supplier when you get partnered up with a new audience who doesn't necessarily know about you, and then the new store does some promotion around it and you get this flood of orders coming in with new audience who are excited about your product.
Yeah, that is awesome, the way to extend your reach. On the retail side of it, just the last question for you here is, you're bringing all these products together. Now you have, you're offering more. Have you seen a revenue growth from that? Is it because you have new customers on your store, or is it you're getting more revenue from your existing customers? How's that work for you?
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen increased revenue. I love to watch the stats of just seeing which collective products are selling on my site and seeing, I mean, to me, I consider that as just gravy. Like, I think my base sales are constant or improved. And then on top of that is the sales from the collective listings. And to me, I'm doing almost nothing. I'm pleasing my customers by offering them more robust offering, and I'm keeping a commission.
I can see how you'd see it that way, but I would say it differently, right? I think you've done so much work, and every brand, this is true, right? You do so much work building your brand, building your audience, establishing trust, right? That's all the work you did. This is just the financial benefit of that work. Because you built a brand, you have the trust, you have the taste, you're making sure all the partners are the right ones. You're offering a great service to your customers, and they're more than willing to pay you for it. I don't think it's free money. I just think it seems like free money because you did all this foundational work beforehand.
Well, that's a nice way to say it. Thank you.
I think it's important to point out for our audience, right? Because I could see some people are like, all right, I'm just going to build a store and I'm going to aggregate all these suppliers and I'm going to make tons of money and do nothing. Like, no, you don't have a brand. You don't have an audience, right? It's not going to work.
It is true, and I do discount that, but I spent many years now building up an audience and educating people about, like, these frames even exist. So, you know, yeah, they are already expecting kind of a level of innovation and quality from me, and I'm only adding products that meet that.
Yes, yes. So let's switch gears and talk about the supplier side of things, right? What sort of brand do you think should be a supplier? Who should be thinking about, oh, maybe I should be the supplier side?
Well, for me, I wanted to be that supplier because I wanted to for the same reason that I'm wholesaling, I wanted to broaden my reach to put my products in front of more eyeballs. And so this is a great tool to put it into audiences that are already kind of intact and grown by other people. So where I fit well is going to be putting Modern Hoopla things into their line of sight. If you're making your own products and you have a kind of well-defined audience and you can find other Shopify users that have a overlap with your audience, then that's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, I think that's the key one you just said there is if you're making your own products, right? If you're reselling somebody else's products, it probably doesn't make sense to be the supplier because there's margins upon margins upon margins and that kind of stuff. So when you started out in Collective as a supplier, did you already have partners in mind and this was just a tool that you guys brought together because you already had the relationship? Or did you use Collective to find retailers for you?
Well, at the start, it was people that I knew. It was people who I was already kind of wholesaling with, and we were alleviating the pain of that, physically packing bulk frames up and shipping them. So now they can sell them without ever touching them. So that was the kind of immediate benefit for the first handful of people that I was a supplier for.
So you already had a wholesale relationship with them, and you just
Hmm.
went from wholesale to drop ship, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did the margins change when you did that?
Yes, when I wholesale, it's more of a typical kind of 50%. And then when I'm doing the fulfilling and I'm storing them, I'm keeping the inventory, in place, I'm doing all those things, then that's why we then shifted the margin to 20%. And to me that seems fair. So far everyone's, that's how we're all operating.
It's totally fair, right? Because as you know, in the wholesale side, you take on the risk when you buy that inventory. You've now put out, capital, and that you're now holding that inventory, and you have to sell it. Where there's no risk, right?
Right.
If the products don't sell,
Then all you do is delete the listing.
yep, a lot less friction there. And so I think it's because of the reduced risk, they get reduced margin. Now, is that 20%, do you think that's like an industry standard, kinda happened organically in your space or
Yeah, it's hard to tell for me because I'm only in my industry. So, it's been pretty consistent, but I've seen in like when you add for the supplier side, you're adding basically a sales channel. So it shows up in your dashboard in a different spot. You're adding the collective sales channel, and there's the same kind of discovery tools where you can go out and find other stores, from that perspective versus the retailer side. But there are also a few different tools then. So once you either invite someone that you already know or that you think might be a good fit, or you can receive invitations from them in either way. And then there's that point of accepting the invitation and the initial discussions of this is my policy, what's your policy, let's make sure we're a good fit, blah blah blah. And then what you do as a supplier is you publish a price list, and that price list could be kind of, I think I said this already, but like a generic, like these are my bestseller products, you can start here. It's the same listing shared across multiple partners, possibly the same listing that I'm selling live on my website. That's kind of like a basic price list. But what I've done, a little bit more advanced step, is I've published a price list that's specific to the retailer. And I go to the trouble of making so rather than like my full square frames listing that has square frames that are from 3 inches all the way up to 14 inches in all the colors, this supplier might want only the 6XL size in walnut. And so I make a version of that listing in my own product list, and I share that with them in their price list. When they're importing it, they don't have all of the excess details. I also go to the trouble when possible of changing the photos to show their embroidery or cross stitch or, those kinds of things in the photos in my frames.
so do you set up a product in your store unique for them, and then you just have that as inactive or something?
Yeah, it just stays in draft.
Okay.
And then that's the thing. I publish that listing to them through the collective links, and then that's what shows up on their website.
How do you handle inventory in that situation where that has the same SKU as another product in your catalog?
Well, that is my current conundrum. There are some inventory tools that I've been looking at that are going to solve that. But for me, right now, because I'm making all of these, I don't really have a hard and fast inventory number. I have, when something runs out in the background, I just make more.
You have what I call the visual inventory system. Oh, we're low on walnut 6 inch. Go make some more.
Yeah, the weekly, like, check, in my head, like, "Oh, well, we need to go cut more of those." Yeah. So, but they're with a more sophisticated inventory tool than the basic Shopify one, that would be resolved.
Yeah, and you would need a third party tool where you could have one SKU across multiple products and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Yes.
But you don't need that right now because your visual inventory system is good enough for you, which is nice.
But it has its days.
Yes, yes, it does. Especially when you forget to look in that corner of the warehouse where the 6 inch walnuts were stored, right? Have you gone out, or do you still, do you go find proactively retailers for your supply side of the business? Are you looking for people and trying to grow your business proactively, or are you just waiting for them to come in?
I'm proactive because like I do once or twice a year I do some wholesale trade shows, and that has been a great extra selling point for some of the people that I'm talking to in person that are considering placing a wholesale order. I'm like, if you have Shopify, we could set it up through Collective instead, and then you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to stock anything, and I handle all the fulfillment.
Is there a downside for the customer on Shopify Collective? Not to say that we shouldn't use Shopify Collective, but are would it be better for the customer if it was a wholesale experience because of shipping costs and policies and that kind of stuff, or really just it all washes out in the end, it ends up being the same price, the same service kind of thing?
The customer at the end customer is probably gonna, depending on the Shopify Collective partners' shipping policies, they might end up paying more in shipping. But they're gaining convenience and also that, having a set of products that's already been cultivated.
Well, they might be gaining access to products they would not have gotten otherwise. Even if there's a little bit more of a premium on the shipping side, that wouldn't have been in the store had it been a wholesale model.
Right. Yeah, and the convenience certainly of, they're making one order. They might be paying a couple bucks more in shipping because it's shipping from two locations. But so is that just a convenience fee?
I think so. I think because they're getting the access.
Depends on the customer. Some customers are going to complain about any shipping.
Yes, yes. Well, customers will complain about anything is the way I see it. So let's talk about a couple of your retailers on your supply side, and have they done anything unique with your products that are interesting for people to look at?
Well, let's see. I sent you a couple links. There's the basic one is the Avlia folk embroidery,
Yep.
and she has on the embroidery kits page. You have to scroll down a bit, and then suddenly you'll see something that doesn't really match the rest of the pictures.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but it's there, and that's an example where I did a kind of a subset listing for her where she only wants that one size and has a preference on the finishes, and so that's a specific Avlia folk embroidery listing.
Now I see on her website, is she the supplier for you of the medallions or C's, whatever you call them,
Yes, we're
supplying each other?
supplying each other.
Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep. And the same thing for the next example I gave you, Junebug and Darling is another cross stitch kit maker. And she, in her supplies and accessories, she actually has quite a range of my products. And they are a mix. Like you can't tell from looking at the listing, but it's a mix. She has some things she prefers to buy wholesale and have in stock because
Mhm.
she's doing some in-person selling and wants to be able to sell them the physical product. And then others of these listings are Shopify Collective listings that it's going to ship from me.
Oh, that is awesome. Now, she's also, correct me if I'm wrong, are they doing the bundles like you're doing? Or I think the of Leah wasn't doing the bundle, but it looks like Junebug is doing the bundling on their side, correct?
I don't know that I don't think so. She's updated some of the photography to show her own product in the photos.
Do they want to do the bundle side of things, or they just haven't thought that far ahead yet?
Yeah, I don't know.
Genius of your model was the bundles you made, right?
I really love the bundles because, that way I'm selling their product and I'm for sure also selling my own. Then the third example I gave you was Lindy Stitches, and she's got Modern Hoopla all on. She's even given us our own page in her product listings.
And she gives you brand recognition there.
Yes, she does. Yeah, so this is the example I was talking about earlier where I got hooked up with Lindy Stitches, and then they did a initial promotion and added everything to their website, and it was just kind of boom, out of the woodwork, all kinds of sales came in over the first probably 2 weeks. So that was very exciting when that works.
Great problem to have, right? If you find a
Yeah.
partner who's got an audience and a demand for your cool and unique products, do you have fear that in these things you're going to teach these competitors who are also your partners, right? And they might start stealing your ideas. I don't think those things happen, but have you seen anything like that where, someone uses someone as a supplier, sees the demand, other than Amazon, who does that all the time, of course,
Right, right.
and then take that product over themselves?
That could happen, although for my specific products, it's unlikely because my product involves some pretty specific woodworking tools that
Yep.
are not very common.
Are you doing CNC routers on your frames?
Now, I have a CNC router and it's a large one, and so if you don't have that sort of tool, you're not going to be making my product. China, on the other hand, they've got plenty of CNC routers.
But yours are also made in America, which is, usually a selling value prop kind of thing. How many retailers are using you as a supplier now? And is that number grow over time, or have you hit like a steady state?
I think I have about 20 retail partnerships right now, and I haven't been like I did kind of a push back in maybe October before Christmas to try to get some new accounts set up, and then I kind of let it rest for a while and focus on other things. And but a couple points during the year I'll kind of go back through a new kind of collective round of tasks on my task list. In fact, today, prepping to talk to you, I logged in and noticed that Shopify has, they are continuing to develop this capability, and they've added new discovery tools kind of for both retailer and supplier that are getting better every time I log in.
Yeah, I was just about to ask the question of, can you search for companies that are in needlepoint?
Yes.
So you can identify in the whole Shopify ecosystem. Is it everybody in the Shopify ecosystem or everybody who's downloaded Shopify Collective?
That I don't think it's people who have downloaded. When I signed up for Collective, there were some requirements. At that point it was like it was almost really beta, and they were still doing it by invitation and that kind of thing. So there are some things that you need to do to be qualified to be on Shopify Collective. I believe it's only for the US and Canada. I think your store has to be dollar based. You have to have Shopify payments on, and then I don't know if it's still accurate, but I don't believe you're allowed to sell digital products through Collective.
Oh, interesting. And my good friend ChatGPT just told me the international expansion began in 2025 beyond US. So
Mm,
they're as Shopify does, they keep rolling out to new markets every 6 months or whatever with their different services. But the Shopify payments is a key one also for a lot of things in Shopify, right?
yes. Shopify payments being on because they want to know. For instance, I had one partner last week who was switching banks. And so when she switched banks, Shopify put like a hold for 3 days on her account. And I was flooded with all these messages of this partner is no longer on Shopify Collective. And, but it resolved itself.
Yep, yep. Now, when one of your retailers has a sale and they have an order pop up in their queue, you get an order in your queue also for just your products, right? You don't see the whole thing, it's just your products. And then you fulfill it. And I assume that sends a notification to their Shopify store. And when their whole order is fulfilled, then the customer notification goes out about order fulfilled and those kind of things.
Yes, and I don't like if I'm fulfilling so the order comes to me, the order it has the customer's information in it because obviously I'm shipping to them, but the order in my view, the purchaser, the buyer in my view is actually the other store. And so that was something that I even on my, when I'm printing out a, sales receipt or that kind of thing to go in the package, it actually says the other retailer or the retailer rather than the person's name.
Now, you get that customer information though, don't you?
I do.
Are they opting into emails from you when they opt in
No.
on the others? Okay. So you're not allowed to market to them kind of thing.
I don't know if I'm not allowed, but it's not like the seamless, like when they check the box at checkout, they don't go on my mailing list automatically.
Now, do you see because you're doing this and your brand is out there in other stores, does that increase the traffic to your store and increase your brand awareness also?
I assume it does. I haven't tracked that specifically, but I definitely, I'm getting orders. Everyone that I'm working with does name the product as Modern Hoopla. So there's that.
Yeah, it'd be hard to track that, but anecdotally, you would see that as you bring on a new supplier, and you're doing a lot of sales in their store, you also see a slight uptick in organic traffic to your store, right, kind of thing, because people see that that name and make the connection, do a little search, and those types of stuff. But it definitely wouldn't be a hard and fast connection in data there. This is fabulous. I have no clients that are using Shopify Collective today.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've got quite a few who make their own products, and I'm like thinking this is just something they at least have to try, right?
And it's such an easy start because there's no extra fee, there's no expense to it. If you find someone who's a good partner, you can try with one product.
Yes. Well, and what I was thinking is not only just one product. The idea I have in my head right now is, I have a client makes their own product and they're doing quite well, and they're in the reptile care space. Imagine, so they sell substrate, coconut substrate that goes on the bottom of the tank. Imagine if they, got a supplier who did food for snakes. Snakes is one of their pets. Well, they could just do a one-time campaign in email in Klaviyo, right? They do a Klaviyo campaign, not stock it on their store all the time. You say, hey, we've just partnered with X, Y, and Z, foodsnakes.com, and we're going to give you a one-time deal, come in, do this flash sale kind of thing. And you see if there's demand in your store with your customers for that type of stuff. And then you do a few of those, you start seeing what kind of products they like and want to buy through you. And then you can turn those into regular products in your store. And I would try the flash sale side of things to just see if you can get a hit from it and also create that temporary sense of urgency, limited time offer, those types of calls to action. Are there any downsides that you've experienced so far? So far it's been win-win, win-win, win-win. Like what are the not, and if not downsides, what are the gotchas people got to think about? And one of the ones I heard you say a lot was have conversations, understand your policies, make sure they're in sync. What other things should people be looking out for?
Not all of the other business owners that I've approached about this are into the idea. Some of them are just, oh, that's too confusing. And I'm just going to stick with wholesale and I'll just buy what I want and resell it on my site, which is fine. I mean, I'm more of an early adopter type. So I understand that you have to convince people over time.
Yes. Yeah, that's what these conversations are about, right? And the more people that do it, the more people, will find successes, hear from their friends, oh, it worked for me and that kind of stuff. Because it sounds like a fabulous tool.
When I first started Shopify, even the help information was not very informative. And they're getting much better with their new discovery tools and with better explanations around what policy decisions you have, what controls you have, the ways that you can sign up for like different ways to charge shipping or not charge shipping, or the different ways you can handle returns or anything like that. As the Shopify tools get better and then more trustworthy, I think particular problem will go away.
Yep. Yep. Would you recommend that everybody just try it out?
Yes.
Every brand, just give it a try and knowing their situation, figure out if they want to be a supplier or a retailer or both kind of thing. But it sounds like one of those, give it a try. There's no cost. There's no friction. There's time and energy, which is very valuable. There's a lot to be gained there.
It's a pretty low time cost for entry. But then you can take it to different levels, which I hope I was able to illustrate both on the retailer and the supplier side. There are basic ways to set this up, and then there are the more advanced ways. It's a great tool. I don't see a downside. I would say be specific. Like find a partner who is really a good fit for your customer base, something else they're gonna really want. Or for if you're on the supplier side, for someone else's customer base that you're a really good fit with. Like be specific, not just kind of a generic, like, let's add new categories of products to sell. I think it's going to be more successful kind of the more your connection makes sense.
the way you started out as an established brand, you already had those connections. And I would say most established brands do have industry connections. They know those people. And odds are, if you know these brands, it's probably 70 to 80% they're on Shopify. It's very few people that aren't anymore. So, maybe you start with the existing brands and say, hey, let's do some partnership.
Perfect place to start. Yes.
Yep.
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 I really think that if you're making your own product and you're already wholesaling, I think that's also a great place to start, is to kind of approach some of your wholesale partners with this idea, and maybe you're going to approach them with a product that they're not already buying. Maybe just because of limitations of, however they're currently wholesaling, like you're offering this to them as a way to expand without capital outlay.
Do you do seasonal specials on your products, or are they just the same products throughout the year?
Oh, yes, I do. I have seasonal colors. So I'll go through and I'll do a batch of, like green for spring, or, that kind of thing. So I do seasonal colors, and then, other kind of holiday-ish themed. I have some frames, for instance, that are hearts for Valentine's Day, or an egg shape, which is funny, for Easter. So I do the holiday-ish special things too.
Because that's a great example of what you're talking about with the limited inventory, why someone who has a wholesale relationship might use the Shopify Collective side of it, the drop ship side, for those limited inventories or limited time ones, because of not having to deal with the logistics of getting them in time, having an X amount of inventory and going through it all. It just reduces all that risk and confusion.
Great example. Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, thank you for your time on this today, Kate. This was very insightful.
Absolutely. I love talking about this. I really think that it's a great tool.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm gonna be lobbying my clients on it very soon. Thanks for your time today.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
You've been listening to the Shopify Solutions podcast with Scott Austin. This podcast is brought to you by Jade Puma, a Shopify-focused agency located in San Diego, California. If you like what you heard, please leave a review and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to work with Scott on your brand, email him at scott@jadepuma.com.